Hey folks, this is Phoebe with Drumstick Blooms. This is an absolute menace of a video because I kept getting distracted, so bear with me, but there's lots of little odd jobs happening. One of today's tasks is to tackle the peppers that have been hanging out in the greenhouse, slowly defoliating and dying. So right here we have Bolivian rainbow peppers. They're not all the way ripe yet, most of them, but they'll turn a darker, deeper red. And if they're turning color, they'll usually finish ripening off the plant. My tiny last harvest of eggplants, for reference, it's like November 8th or so. My entire harvest of roselle this year from one plant, which I am trying to save. We'll see. We'll see how that goes. It is not the climate for it, but that has never stopped me. This is a pepper called Buena Muleta, I think, and this is the plant. I was busy pulling them off here a minute ago before I realized maybe I could share it. And then these are orange habaneros down in this corner, and there are a whole lot more. I'm not going to show that. There's just a mess in between here and there. A whole lot more in the in-ground area that we've been kept covered with a frost cover for the last 3 or 4 weeks now, to try to save them. So peppers today. Also in here is my potted ginger and one turmeric. So I think I'm gonna try to cut these back and take some of them inside. Turmeric is surprisingly more cold hardy than I thought it was last year. It took a while for it to die back in the tunnel here. So I'm gonna just probably leave it until the top dies. I might pot it up. They're not in very big pots. They're like maybe 2-gallon size. And this is gonna be really small. It's not gonna look like grocery store garlic. It's gonna be ginger. It's gonna look like fresh, soft, milder ginger when I pull it out. So I might harvest a pot or two and then try to keep maybe this one because it's looking the most robust, and see if I can overwinter it. There's a couple pepper plants that I'm going to try to take in, and so I'm going to remove this from the pot, take most of the soil off of it, and take it in. This variety is called Lemon Starburst, and my husband likes hot peppers, and this is one that he really likes. So last year I got one Bolivian rainbow plant to stay alive inside all winter, and it made it through this year. So these turn yellow when they're ripe. So starburst, you can imagine, yellow, and they're a hot one. These are not ones that I eat, honestly. And then we've got these tiny Bolivian rainbows that didn't do much, but they were from a pile of seeds that I found just germinating out in the field. So I potted them up to see what would happen. And they're small enough that I think I could take them out of this pot, put them in maybe quart-sized pots, and take them in for the winter, and then see if we can't get a little jump start on those next season. I mean, we've got a whole other smorgasbord of other stuff down in here, mostly the super hots, because I was trying to grow them in a more enclosed environment to get them going faster this year. You can see there's frost damage here by the sidewall of the thingamajig we're in, the tunnel. And so you can kind of see that goes along the whole way, and then interior they've been mostly fine. And I've been covering them in here with that frost cloth, so it's a light one. It's only supposed to offer like 4 degrees of protection, but so far that's been enough because we haven't had a lot of really hard frosts yet. But we're getting ready to say goodbye to these guys. We planted far more habaneros than we could possibly use, so we've been giving them away a lot, but this plant in here has been especially prolific. There's another one back here that's done exceptionally well. We trialed this variety partially to see if it'd be good for arrangements, and it probably would be, but I just haven't quite figured out how to use it effectively. And I don't think we're gonna grow it again just because it's cute and it tastes okay, but limited space, limited time. I think it's one of the Bikino yellow, and then we've got more Bolivian rainbows down here, and this did really, really well. So this is, I think, 3 plants total, and got the inspector on it, but these did really well, and I'll probably save a few of these in here because I want to save seed for next year, so I'm going to pocket a few of these before I strip the plants of the rest of them. So we'll get them, they're already kind of wrinkly, they're already really mature, So that should be good for saving seeds out of. So I ended up with a pretty good haul, especially since it's like the second week of November now. So these were all super hot types. That's the Bolivian rainbow, and then a whole bunch of habaneros. And Ava's been super invested in the whole process, even though I'm pretty sure she knows she can't eat these. And then under here we've got those cayenne looking ones I was picking earlier, and my eggplants are under there somewhere too. But that's the pepper harvest. That's it for the peppers this year. I'm gonna leave these in and see how long they last. It might be just through the night. I obviously didn't pick everything because that would be a lot, and we don't really need that many peppers, I say, as I begin to pick them again. But yeah, this next update is in the rose garden, more or less. This one's called Grande Amore, and it's looking great. There's tumbleweeds everywhere now because we've been having a lot of wind. But the real reason we're here is not that inspiring looking right now, but hopefully next year there will be like 2,000 or 3,000 daffodils blooming. So all these little lumps here behind the rows of roses are mulched areas where there are daffodils and other bulbs planted. This section here is those multi-blooming, like multi-flower per stem, like Bridal crown and yellow cheerfulness, and then there'll be a few other varieties down here once they arrive. This row is largely Ice King and Replete, which are two doubles, and then we're waiting down there for some British Gamble to arrive. And then the bottom row, this is super informative, I'm sure. Bottom row is a bunch of mixes. So there's a double mix in the first section, a butterfly mix in the second section, and then multiple different other kinds of bulbs like camas and iris, some alliums, and something else I'm forgetting, leucojum. I had a bucket of random bulbs I had dug up that got put down there too. And then the roses are doing really well. I think next year is really going to be telling to see how they jump and grow. But there's alfalfa pellets right there where I planted peonies. But we've been getting frosts, as I've mentioned multiple times, but the roses are mostly just soldiering right through. There's been a little bit of tip die off on some of them with the greener growth, but some of this new fresh growth is totally unfazed. So it seems to really vary by the plant, which is not surprising since there's variable cold hardiness in different varieties of roses. But they've been doing really well. And one that I'm still just absolutely giddy to show people, including my husband over and over, I'm sure he appreciates it a lot, is these Cecil Bruners. So these were cuttings that I took in February, and we already have nice little shrubs. And I'm pretty sure this is the climbing type. I'm gonna try to train them into little trees, kind of like shrubby tree type shapes. We'll see how that goes. I have all kinds of grand plans, but this one's super nostalgic for me, and I'm really, really stoked they're doing so well. So we'll see how they overwinter, and then hopefully they triple in size next year. I only took one little snippet of video when I was planting the bulbs because I figured it would be tedious to watch me digging trenches and dumping bulbs in the ground over and over again. But this is one of the double or butterfly mixes going in the ground. The last big task for today is planting all of our garlic. So these are the 4 varieties we have. I'm honestly not sure about the difference between early Italian and early Italian purple, but these are different varieties I've bought in the past and then saved. With the exception of music, I did save a little bit because I had a little bit, but mostly the gophers ate it this year, so I did buy a pound of music garlic. So they are all already broken up in here. I did that this morning when it was dark so that I could just come out here and get going, because we gotta weed the row, and then I need to dig it a little bit so that it'll be easy to plant. And then I also have some shallots and onions and a variety of onion set called Yellow Rock, because I like having early onions, these are shallots, to plant. And then we also have, let's see if I can dig real quick, just a hodgepodge of our own small onions that didn't size up. Some of them have rotted a little bit, so not all of these will go on the ground, but some of these just didn't size up this year, so I typically save those and replant them to see if we can get something larger and more useful next year. So my husband is going to help me with this project, so I am not going to film the whole thing, but the goal is to get this weeded, kind of dug up a little bit so it's easier to just go along and plug stuff in every couple inches. And then I have bone meal and fertilizer in the car, or in the truck rather, that we're going to come along and sprinkle across the top of the rows. And then these nice bales of alfalfa are going to be a nice heavy mulch to keep weeds from coming through and to mulch and protect the soil. So that is the task for today. That is kind of been putting it off, but the ground is starting to freeze a little bit when it freezes, and so it's really time to get going on it. So let's go plant some garlic. So I've grown potatoes for several years now, and every year I find rogue potatoes from the prior year. So like I missed a potato, and then the next spring I see a potato plant growing, which makes me question why I'm not planting potatoes in the fall and just letting them ride so that I can have early potatoes in the spring. And so what I've done is we have all these tiny potatoes that didn't size up this year. Our potatoes didn't do spectacularly this year, and that's 100% my fault. And we're just tucking them in. They're going to be like 4 to 6 inches under the ground, and then they'll get this layer of alfalfa on top of them as well. And then we'll see what this yields. This is probably about 10 feet that we've planted, and there are 3 rows. So this is a 4-foot wide bed-ish. So there's a row here, there's a row here, and then there's a row here, and then there'll be drip tape in between each row and on the outer side of each row once that's tidied up. And then down here you can see we got all the flowers and everything pulled out of this bed, and it is full of garlic. And then where that stick is, there's also onions and shallots and stuff like that in there too. So onion sets and some shallots from this year. So hopefully next year we will have a magnificent row of garlic and onions, and then spring potatoes. We'll find out. I don't know how that will go, but I've been wanting to try this, so I figured why not now with these tiny potatoes that I frankly will forget about, and they'll just wither and die a slow, sad death in my office. So I'm trying to plant them. So we have a lot of white and yellow fleshed ones, and these kind of 2 rows here, and then that other 3rd row is reds, and then a few huckleberry golds that I still have kicking around, and we'll see what happens in the spring. It's very exciting. Little potatoes and the promise of food next year. Another accidental experiment we're running is seeing if the ranunculus survive over winter. So this is where there's a weedy mess, and I planted my ranunculus here this spring. They're cheap, like Lowe's varieties, because I figured I should learn on cheap varieties before investing in some of those expensive kinds, or to me they're expensive, but not even the super fancy kinds. Anyway, these came back. I never pulled them out, obviously, and they are coming back now in the fall, and I am very curious to see if they will overwinter and then bloom in the spring. Oh, there's a sweet pea coming up too. So all the sweet peas went to seed here, so there are also sweet peas, which is great because I intended to do an experiment with them and I didn't get to it, so they're doing it on their own. That's great. That's even better news. So 2 experiments in one. That's very exciting. And then over here we have some snapdragons that are pretty bloomed out. funnily enough, I planted my snapdragons that I was planning to overwinter way too early, and now they're starting to bloom. These are not them, these are from this spring, but that was unintended, and next year I will just have to plant them later. I was trying to give them enough time to root in while we still had water running, but I gave them too much time and it's still too warm. So they're just starting to pop off. But we've had several frosts and we still have snapdragons. There's a lot of wind damage because we had a big windstorm recently, but look at this one. Being propped up by the snow, not the snow peas, the sweet peas. Anyway, this is a trellis of sweet peas I need to eventually come down. I'm just going to toss some more seeds down in there, see if they do their thing. Anyway, I just wanted to show you the ranunculus, and now I've gotten distracted with seeds and whatnot. Anyway, so beautiful snapdragons, etc., etc. There's a lot of experimentation happening in the garden, as usual, but I hope you enjoyed something, learned something, found something useful here, and I hope you have a wonderful rest of your day.